Ahoy everyone, and welcome to the first of our basic programming tutorials. In this series we'll be going over the basics of programming in Java. As in my opinion, Java is the easiest language for someone to pick up, as well as we'll be using it later in our Minecraft plugin tutorials. So in this episode we'll be going over the basic syntax of Java, data types, variables, basic operators, logic structures, loops, stuff like that. Going over the most basic aspects of programming. So to get started, I'm going to make the assumption that you are a semi-competent computer user and that you know how to install programs. To get started, you'll need to install Java, obviously, as well as the Java JDK, which you can find both those by just searching them on Google. I will be using Eclipse Oxygen as my Java editor, and that's what I'm in now. You can also just find that online. Anyway, to get started, mine is themed like this because I have DevStyle installed, which you can download that for free from the Eclipse Marketplace once you get Eclipse installed. I recommend coding with a dark theme, as it is proven to make your coding at least 10% better. Anyway, to get started, we're going to go up to File, and then New Java Project. We're going to name this project Tutorial and hit Finish. So over here on our file hierarchy, we have a new project called Tutorial. If we expand that down, we'll see the source folder, where we're going to click on that and make a new package. The package part's not required. You can just throw your files in source. However, it helps organizing things. That way, if you have multiple files in one program, like we will later, then you can put multiple programs inside your same project folder without them conflicting. You can call this package whatever you want. I'm going to name it net.voltaic.tutorial. That's just a naming convention that I'm carrying over from Java, from plugin development, excuse me. So then we're once going to click our package, go to New, and this time down to Class. And so this is our actual program file. And now the name of this is somewhat important. And so we're going to name this Guessing Game. As in this video, we'll be making the guessing game. And we'll just hit Finish. And so that will create us our new Java class. And you see it goes ahead and creates Java class, guessing game. And so this here has to match the file name. Otherwise, the Java compiler, the thing that turns your written code into something the computer can actually run, will get confused and will yell at you. Anyway, let's go down. Oh, and by the way, I'll say this now. If there's any questions that you have or anything you're confused on, you can feel free to make a comment down below. Or I also recommend looking at the Java documentation, which I'll put a link to down in the description. But it will just link you to this page, which is for Java 8, which there basically works for any version of Java. But then you can use this to find documentation on anything in Java. For instance, if we want to find scanner, we can look here. Oh, there we passed it. Scanner. And click here. We can read up about ScannerWorks, which we'll be using this in just a moment. In a way, it's very helpful. I recommend becoming best friends with it. Anyway, let's begin. So we're going to start off with making public static void main, and then those string square braces, then args. Come down and do that. And so this is setting up what we call our main method. And so you can put this main method anywhere in your file, and the main method will always execute first. It's the root of our program, basically. And so anyway. So in the guessing game, we're going to want to be able to have a random number, which the user has to guess, as well as we're going to want to be able to get the user's input. So we're going to want to make a couple variables, which variables are placeholders for a value, which we can change at will. And each variable has a data type. So if we type int user in, and then a semicolon, which we use semicolons to end statements, that way the computer knows we are done, we can define a variable. So in this case, the integer, which is what int stands for, the integer user in will hold any integer value, so any whole number. And so from here we can actually go ahead and set this to 0 if we want, which this is called initializing, because there are certain cases where you would run into problems if you don't initialize your variable beforehand, but in this case it won't matter. Anyway, we can go ahead and initialize it to 0. We can make this anything we want, make it 12, but it's just fine as it is for now. There's a couple other basic data types. Only a few of them you'll use on a regular basis. There's integer, there is double, which holds a double value, which that is, let's define this, double temp can hold any value such as like 12.00. So if you want your decimal point, then you'll use a double. There's also long, which longs are basically the older brother of an integer. So because your integer can only hold numbers which are so big, so many decimal places, or so many places. And a long basically just going to hold more. There's also a Boolean value, which these are either true or false. And also, as I'm going through here, seeing it's highlighting some words and underlining some others. Those are the ones it's highlighting like this, these colors, everything. That is that's Eclipse picking up on keywords. And so int, double, and boolean are keywords, which means that they have stuff already assigned to them. And this, if I hover over this yellow squiggly line, it's just telling me that this value's not been used, and it gives me options for that. But a Boolean can be either true or false. Those are the ones you'll use the most. There's others though. There's a float. There's another one you'll use is string, which a string is basically a group of characters. Oop, there we go. So string hello will give us a string called hello. Hello. Oh, we need a, there we go, semicolon. And so where a string is a collection of characters, a char is one single character. And we define that with single quotes, like that, instead of the double quotes of a character. So what we can do is we can actually print any of these out. So If we do system.out.println and then it auto completes it for us, it's nice. We can type in words, and then that will print out words. So we can go up here into Eclipse and click Run guessinggame.java. And then in our console window down here, which you can get to by just clicking console, it will tell us hello. And we don't even have to have a variable in here. We can print out directly. We can go hello world, and then save that and run, and we get hello world. And to add things together, you just put a plus between them. And yeah, so anyway, let us get back to the guessing game. So we want to be able to get our user in. We want to have a random number, which the player will guess. We'll call that random num. And we're also going to want to be able to get the user's input somehow. So to do that, we're going to need to find some way to read in something that they type. And to do that, we're going to use a scanner. So we're going to do scanner, and this can be anything because we're defining a data type scanner variable name. Tabbed. And then we're going to do equals new, which calls a constructor, which we'll talk about in detail in a later episode. But what this does is it's basically saying, hey, we're going to make a new scanner data type with the following attributes. And that attribute is that we want to use system.in, which is the console text field. So we set up that. And see, it's giving us a warning here, saying that scanner cannot be resolved. And that's because scanner is not a basic data type. It's made using a class. So what we're going to have to do to get it to work is we're going to need to import it. So we're going to need to type Java. We're going to import java.util for utility .star because we want everything. And then you can be more specific and type dot. You can do scanner directly, but most of the time it doesn't make much difference. You can just do that. So we have a new scanner now. So let's welcome people to the guessing game with a system.out.println and welcome. Guessing game. And so now we need to assign a number for them to guess. So to do this, we're going to have a random num equal, we're going to cast it to an int. So, and you can just basically copy what I'm about to type, but doing this is called casting. So it tells Java to try to turn a variable of one data type into another. And sometimes you can do that, sometimes you can't. But what we're going to do is we're going to tell Java to turn the following double into an integer. We're going to type math.random and do this. And we're going to put star 10 plus 1. So we can type out this. And what this is saying is that we'll generate numbers between 1 and 10. We want to make it a bit harder for the user, so let's do 100 for that. So we have math, we'll do this, there we go. All right, so we have a random number for them to guess. Now let's have them guess. So out.println guess a number between 1 and 100. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have a user in, because that's what the user's inputting, and we're going to set that equal to scanner, because that's what we called our scanner variable, dot, and then we're going to use a function on that of nextInt. So this is the program will print this out, and then it will wait for the user to input a number, and then we'll move on. And if, now we're going to start using logic, if what the user inputted, so user in, double equal sign, and so here's a good time to talk about logic and comments. So you can type 2 slashes to make a comment. This is a comment. You can also type /* and then */. This in the middle is not required. You can type that to make a block comment. So then everything we put in the middle here is ignored. It will not be run. And there's, depending on who you talk to, there's different opinions about commenting. Some people say you should comment nearly everything in your code. Some people like this policy called clean code, where you should be able to tell what's going on without a comment. In my opinion, unless you're actually working for a company and they have their own standard, then just do whatever you need to understand what's going on. But anyway, you can put 2 equal signs to do equal to. You can do less than sign to do a less than, obviously. The opposite is greater than. Greater than. You can do a less than or equal to, that's an L. Do less than or equal to, then greater than or equal to. You can also do exclamation point equal to for not equal to. And those are the basic logic operators. And so we want user in, if user in is equal to the random num we created, we want to tell the user that, hey, you guessed correctly. You guessed correctly. And so let's test this out. So up here, let's print out our random num, just so we can see what's going on. And so then guess a number between 1 and 100, and it's saying we should guess 65. So hey, you guessed correctly. Now, question is, so see here, let's guess 12 this time. And there. We did not guess the correct number, which was 24, and did not run this. Now this is cool and all, however, it's not very practical. So let's do some other stuff. Let's go down here and let's type else. And so if this if statement is true, it'll execute this. If it's not true, it'll execute all of this. And you can put brackets around if statements so that it doesn't execute multiple things. For instance, I misspelled system there. Let's do take is anti-meme, and then correct our spelling. Now let's run this and see what happens. So if we don't have these brackets here, then this statement should execute no matter what. Oh, and it's saying I have an error. Forgot my semicolon. So if we guess not 83, we'll say we'll take as anti-meme. If we guess correctly, 50, we'll get both. So you can put brackets around your things to create a whole block that'll execute if the if statement's correct. However, we don't need that for right now, since we just have the one line, so that's not needed. And it helps keep your code clean and condensed if you leave off your brackets. Alright, so let's go down here and type else, and you can chain if statements together by doing else if. Let's say if a user in is less than random num, you want to tell the user that, hey, your guess is too low. Or no, your guess is, yes, too low. Your guess is too low. Semicolon. Let's also do the case where if their guess was too high. So else if user in is greater than random num, and so I'm doing print line for all these. You can also do just print, and that will keep everything on the same line, so it won't automatically start the next line if you just do print. And so you can use that if you need to format things a certain way. Your guess is too high. So let's try this now. Let's run our program. Let's guess a number. The extra number is 15, so if we guess 10, it should tell us our number is too low. Here we go. So there we have that. That's cool and all, but you can only go through once. If we take out this random number telling the user the answer, they're only going to have one shot at it. So let's use a loop. And let's use a while loop. So we want to do that while the user in their guess does not equal the random num, we're going to do some stuff. And so if we just leave this like this, it's going to complain at us. So what we need to do is come up here and initialize this to 0 so that this will be ready to compare. Because we're also going to need to move this. We're going to move this stuff down inside the loop. And so we can do this because we're going to generate our random num between 1 and 100. So at the beginning, it's never going to be equal to 0. We can not worry about if we do a do while loop, which looks like this. Do, and then your brackets, then while, and you have a condition in here. So this will do, then check. Well, what we're going to do is we want to check and then do. Simple. So come down here, let's paste our stuff in, and then make sure we get brackets on this. And then tab all this over so that we keep it organized. So what we're going to do is come through, check, see if they guessed, do that, and then do all this. So that should be it. Let's see what we get. Pick a number. If we pick 50, your guess is too low. So let's pick 75. Our guess is still too low. So let's pick 80. Too low. 90. There we go. 95. And then 96. Hey, you guessed correctly. And then we exit. So yeah. There we go. We have made a guessing game. And there's also another type of loop called a for loop, which is a bit more complicated, but not that difficult. A for loop basically keeps everything contained in itself. So like you see here, all of our conditional stuff is declared elsewhere, and everything like increments every time through the loop is contained with just somewhere in here. A for loop keeps everything just in that one line. So a for loop, what do is you declare a variable. In this case, we're going to do an int equal to I. So we declare a variable. Then we set our condition. So like while I is less than 26, so we'll increment through it 26 times, semicolon, I++. And see how nice this is? You can tell exactly what this loop does just by looking here. Whereas like here, okay, so while user in does not equal num, however, we have to look through all this to find out what's going on between these two variables. And what we can do this, and then this will loop through the thing a number of times here. And this can be any condition. Like we could put user in does not equal random num here, but it's not, it would be overdoing it when all we really need is just a while loop. So depending on the situation, you can change up, you can do a do while, a while, or a for loop. And here what we can do is, well, this is less than 26. We can define an int. No. Let's do a double. We can make a double that just does some stuff. Double loop equals 4. And then that basically just does garbage, but shows basics of how that works. And once again here, the brackets are optional because we just have one line. And so yeah, that's all for this episode. Next episode, we'll talk about arrays and functions, and we'll add on to the guessing game a little bit. After that, we'll talk about different classes and interfaces, and we'll make a Hunt the Wumpus game. I hope you all enjoyed. If you have any questions about anything we've shown here or anything we didn't cover, feel free to leave a comment down below, and I'll try to address those in the next video. Thank you all for watching. In the words of Game Fruit Pulp, I will catch you all next time.